I'll be fine now. I'll be fine. Thank you. No, I'm good, and I won't disturb anybody else. I'm relaxed. It's just lightning. There's nobody out there. I know. I'm just gonna rest. I'll just go to sleep now. Don't worry. Don't worry. Thank you. Thank you. Ah! Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your services. Don't worry yourselves, we all landed nice and safely. However, the thing on the wing, I don't know, just went into the clouds. Yes folks, this is a little celebration of probably the most renowned and revered episode of the Twilight Zone, both of the original Twilight Zone TV series from Rod Serling and the 1983 co-production between Steven Spielberg and John Landis for Twilight Zone the movie. Now, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet was written initially by Richard Matheson, the great Richard Matheson, for an anthology, Alone by Night, in I think 1961, and then in 63 I think it was, he redeveloped that story of a neurotic passenger on a plane, a jet airliner, who witnesses something like a gremlin on the wing of the plane, but only he can see it. So he complains to the air stewardesses and the staff and his wife in the original story, and no one else can see it, so they think he's going mad. And it doesn't help that in the original version it's actually William Shatner, the great William Shatner, who's just been released from a sanitarium after having had a nervous breakdown, and he's on the plane with his wife and he sees this, and oh my god, all hell breaks loose. He goes crazy, manages to get the gun off an air marshal, opens the door and tries to shoot at the thing. Anyway, but what happens, of course, at the end when they've landed, the flight crew all realise that, hang on, the wing and the engine have all been sabotaged and ripped up. Maybe he was telling the truth. Who knows? Well, we know it is true. So Matheson wrote that. He then, the original story, then he did a first draft for Rod Serling and the Twilight Zone TV show. I think it was season 5 as well. So it was quite a long way into this very successful long-running TV show. And he changed it slightly. He gave the guy a wife, for one thing, and there was no bits outside the plane. It was just because initially in his first draft, you saw him in the office, you saw him going here, you saw him going to the airport. So look, let's just cut to the chase. Let's get him in the air, and we're already going to be on edge because the guy is in panic mode right from the word go. What spurred me on to think about this is the sad passing at the age of 91 of the great movie filmmaker Richard Donner. I did a video tribute to him a few days ago, and this was the first of, I think, 5 or 6 episodes that he directed for the Twilight Zone, because Richard Donner worked extensively for 2 decades in TV, the 60s and the 70s. He did tons and tons and tons of TV stuff before making the big leap into movies with The Omen and Superman and various other big league, multiplex filling movies. But Nightmare at 20,000 Feet is a tour de force. It's bravura, it's visceral, it's all enclosed within the cabin of the plane. His wife doesn't believe him. Bill Shatner gives a great performance. The only thing that lets it down, really, and I'm only conceding what other people say here, is that the actual gremlin on the wing of the plane is just a man in a suit. And, well, what else was it going to be? And he looks like a Yeti or an ape man. He's got kind of frosted sort of fur, big lips on him, googly eyes, and yeah, well, and there's some great bits where only Bill Shatner can see him, and he's on the plane and he's walking up and down the wing and he's doing bits and bobs, and he's sort of kneeling down on it as well. But every time Bill Shatner calls someone, go, look, the thing on the wing, look, it's there. Quite clearly on wires. The guy, by the way, it's Nick Cravat, who was a stuntman, an actor and performer, and a best friend of Burt Lancaster. They starred in many, many films together. But Nick Cravat is the gremlin. And whenever someone else comes to the window to look, these unseen wires he just floats off the wing. And like, poor old Bill Shatner's like, but he was there, I saw him, he was there. Oh, like, no, you've got to calm down. Take some more pills. Donner's direction is very tense, very suspenseful. It's a slow build-up, but you start off at quite a fever pitch, and it builds and builds and builds from that point onwards. And I love it. It's shot very well. It's atmospheric. It's thrilling. It's genuinely scary. And Bill Shatner, with that nuanced acting style of his, which is brought on by having very, very profound tinnitus, which does affect his hearing and affects his approach to life in general. And some people don't know about this, but that affects his speech pattern. So that, wait, speaking and enunciating certain words and having strange pauses in the middle of sentences when no one else would ever pause. They would just rush through the entire sentence. But Bill Shatner has that way of speaking because he's combating tinnitus, and it's become a trademark for him, of course. And he's great in this, very young, obviously, but it's a great performance, and Donner's direction is excellent. So I thought, okay, it's nice to think about, what Richard Donner did before Superman and Lethal Weapon, and obviously The Omen, and Goonies. But it also made me start thinking that when Twilight Zone, the movie, came out, which is 2 great stories, 2 crap stories, and an interesting wraparound story as well. But in 1983, Steven Spielberg and John Landis are riding high, so they get the rights to produce this, and they're going to direct an episode each, but they're going to bring in 2 other directors as well. Joe Dante from The Howling and Piranha, and George Miller, the new kid on the block from Mad Max. But Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, had just come out. He'd just done it. So he's in America for a meeting with Spielberg, and Spielberg offers him this. This is the Marius Constant initial theme, the famous theme, which is actually 2 library tracks put together. It wasn't devised or composed for the Twilight Zone. It was 2 library tracks he'd already composed for different reasons, and then he put it together, and it perfectly suited the intro and outro of Twilight Zone, with that glorious narration as well. But so the film it's known horribly for the tragedy of Vic Morrow and the 2 Vietnamese child actors, for the first story where he's a small town bigot who, after he kicks the can, he basically becomes he'll become a Negro who is chased by the Ku Klux Klan. He will become a Jew in Nazi occupied France, and he'll become like in Vietnam, where he's pursued by the Americans who are taking him for a VC, a member of the Viet Cong. And in the tragic sequence, which obviously it's not in the film, although the Vietnam sequence does exist in the movie, he's carrying these 2 child actors through, and it's White Sands, California, and the big exterior location, and they've set up, there's a lake there, and you've got all these ramshackle VC huts, and it's night time, and there's mortars and bombs going off, and he's carrying these 2 kids across this lake, and he's deep in water, and there's a helicopter above which is meant to be full of Americans who are pursuing him, and these bombs are going off left, right and centre, and one goes off, and the pilot, it takes off the rear rotor, so as they're plunging through the water, it crashes down on him. Oh God, and it is a very famous and horrific tragedy, and it definitely marred the film. Well, the film was successful when it came out, It was definitely troubled. A lot of legalities went into place there. A lot of finger pointing, who's to blame for this? Because, and if you watch that sequence, because it does exist sadly, because multiple cameras were filming it, I can't believe that they got Vic Morrow to do that sequence. And this is the John Landis segment of the movie. It's a long shot. He's wading through water with huge explosions going off. I mean, whether there's a helicopter above you or not, it's bloody dangerous. And the thing just comes straight down on him and decapitates Vic Morrow and I think the male child. But the girl is crushed beneath the landing struts. So, horrific story out of the way. This video is really a celebration of Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. To my mind, the greatest episode of the original TV show, and certainly the best sequence in Twilight Zone, the movie, and that's the one that George Miller was brought in to direct. And George Miller, famously, you know, with Mad Max and Mad Max 2, and obviously films we've seen since, has a very visceral sense. He uses, you know, those off-kilter angles. He uses Tex Avery style, eyes bulging out. Literally, when someone goes, like a cartoon, it's in both Mad Max and Mad Max The Road Warrior, and it's in this as well. And I'm pretty certain it's in Fury Road as well. And his depiction, John Lithgow, the great John Lithgow, he's the guy that sees the thing on the wing, and he's not like, he's not just recovered from a nervous breakdown. He's just terrified of flying. So we don't know why he's on the plane, but he's also an author of computer sciences. And we first encounter him, and he's hiding in the toilets in the plane. And the air stewardesses are banging the door because obviously they're coming into land soon, so we need to get you back out. Oh, he's one of those white knuckers. I knew when he got on the plane that he was going to be trouble. And John Lithgow's covered in sweat, and he's just all over the place, like he's splashing water in his face. And they get him out finally, and they sit him back down, and they try and calm him down. And oh, what's her name? Abby Lane is the senior flight attendant. And when I was a kid, I had the hots for her. And she's the older one. She's the older, sexy one. There's a Donna Douglas or something, like it's the younger blonde one. But no, it's this one. Deanna name is in it. And oh God, she's so gorgeous, so sexy. And she's much older as well, but yeah. And I still fancy her now. Well, when I watch that, I don't mean how she looks now, because I've got no idea. She must be one hell of a ripe old age by now. She'd be looking something like this. Abby, loving your work. And and she calms him down, and she takes a bit of an interest in the guy, and she's the one thing he can depend on. Anyway, he calms down, pops a few tablets, a few sedatives and that, like. But he sees this beast, this gremlin on the wing. Now, this is not just a man in a suit. It's a man in a suit. Larry Cedar plays the man in a suit during one particular couple of shots. But most of it is it's animatronics and special effects. And Craig Reardon and, what's the guy's name? Ed Verreau designed this creature. And it looks like a pale version of this. It's got long hair. It's very skeletal. But it's amazing when you see it, and you don't see it until you see it up close. It's just a figure, and John Lithgow's whose name's John Valentine in it, and he's looking through the window, and he gets his glasses on, but he can see what it's doing, and it's got 4 engines on these planes, and it's on the outside engine, and it's ripping things up, and then gets a bit of machinery, looks at it, and throws it in and blows the engine. They're also flying through a ferocious storm, lightning, thunder, lashing rain, lots of turbulence, and the plane is full of bizarre characters. You've got Christina Nigra, who's this obnoxious little girl with a Polaroid camera who keeps snapping pictures, and she's got a ventriloquist dummy as well. And her mother is, I think, one of the mothers. She's Tina's mother in Nightmare on Elm Street, and and then you've got I wrote it down somewhere. Charles Knapp as the FAA Sky Marshal, for example, a great big hulking fat guy, and it's just full of these colourful characters. A couple of old people behind John Valentine, and the more he sees this thing, the more spiraling out of control his paranoia becomes, and he panics everybody, and in the end, he tries to the thing blows another engine. He tries to smash the window with an oxygen tank which rolls down towards him. All the passengers pull him down, but he's already seen that this guy's got a gun, so he reaches for the gun for this guy's ankle holster and shoots through the window, and then gets sucked straight through it, and this Sky Marshal's holding him back. But he starts shooting at the gremlin, and the gremlin runs down the wing of the plane to him, and in that great moment when you see it up close and they're coming in to land, so he's blown 2 engines now, and it just comes down to him, and he's got the gun like that. I'm not sure it bites the gun or it snaps it, but it leans in, and next thing his gun's just all like melted and there's only half of it left, and it just goes like that on his face. Whoop! And then takes his hand off and just grins at him and just goes like that, and then flies off into the stormy clouds, never to be seen again. The plane will land, emergency crews are all there. He's strapped into a gurney, as they say in America, a stretcher, as we say in the UK, and he's whisked off. But you see, I saved everybody. He's gone completely mad. But of course, all the crew come in, all the engineers and rescue people, and they go, "You better come and look at this. Holy Toledo, what happened up there?" There's all scratch marks, the engines are ripped up and everything. And it's just great. So he's vindicated. We know this. Jerry Goldsmith scores the entire movie. And Jerry Goldsmith and Bernard Herrmann have worked extensively on a lot of TV as well. But Goldsmith gets his chance to put his stamp on Twilight Zone with this unbelievably great score. Now I'm playing you the actual sequence from Nightmare at 20,000 feet. And it's just incredible. There's Dance Macabre in here. There's absolutely frenzied violins, bass cellos being plucked. The 4-note driving theme for John Valentine is electrifying. And the absolute paranoia is building right from the word go. John Lithgow's performance is just so OTT. Third Rock from the Sun, Raising Cain, Cliffhanger. We know this guy can play ultra OTT wild cards, and he's brilliant, but you love him at the same time. As I say, the air stewardess is tremendous. I love her performance. And you've got, what's his name now? John Dennis Johnston, who plays the co-pilot. Now, this guy was in hundreds of TV shows, and he's a supporting bit part player in many, many movies. And he's got a lean, mean, aggressive, redneck, you know, old boy sort of look to him. He looks like a rough bastard. He can't ever be clean, unless you took the skin off his face, he'd never be clean shaven. And he's playing the co-pilot, who eventually sits down with John Valentine, John Lithgow, and says, "Look, Mr. Valentine, you've got to see it from my point of view. I've got a plane that's going through turbulence and a hell of a storm, and I've got a passenger who's causing upset and uproar, who's frightening all the other passengers, and is posing a danger to this plane." And he's like, "So what is it that's going on out there? Take a look out the window. Tell me what you see." Nothing out there. What was I meant to see? It's like, "There's an engine now, isn't there?" And the co-pilot sort of says, "Hang on a minute. Well, yeah, there is. I'll admit this. Let's keep this quiet. There is the engine on the outside. We lost it about 9 minutes ago." "How did you know that?" And he's like, "But it happens all the time. Lightning hits it. We've got 3 other great engines. The chances of any others going out is absolutely minimal." It's like, "It was lightning, did it?" "Yes, Mr. Valentine, it was lightning." "There's no man out there." "No, there's no man out there." It's brilliant. But of course then he sees that the gremlin is now ripping up another engine, and in a great visual which you would see George Miller would employ a lot in Fury Road during the chases, where they've got those great big boomstick things and they put them into engines and blow engines up on other vehicles. This thing is picking bits of machinery, I was looking at it, and then going and throwing them into the big engine turbines, blowing them. Identical to what you see in Fury Road. So George Miller's already got that style. It employs very comic book and cartoonic, what they call Dutch angles, By the way, Dutch angles is actually, it's a bit of a misnomer, because it should be Deutsch angles, because it's German expressionism, but they got, in the translation, people mistook it, and it's now known as Dutch angles, but it's Deutsch angles, so it's always off kilter, and there's lots of zooms, lots of one-take shots as well, where they give him sedatives like and a glass of water. As you saw a certain idiot reenacting at the start of this video, that sequence is truly electrifying. Perfect marriage of George Miller's direction, the awesome camera work, Lithgow's fantastic performance, great style, and Goldsmith's score and timing. It is excellent. The camera just moves in on Lithgow's face. He's forcing himself to go to sleep. He's meant to have took some sedatives, but his eyes open again, and he just reaches around and opens the window, the blind, and it's right there in his face, and his eyes pop from his head in that George Miller trademark. Whoa! It's one of those great electrifying jolts that doesn't matter. You might not like the rest of the movie, but you're going to love that sequence regardless. That segment is excellent. I will say that Joe Dante's segment, which comes before it, It's a Good Life, about a kid that can make anything, he can do anything with his mind. He loves comic books, he loves fantasy, and he's got the power to destroy the world. And he and Kathleen Quinlan will walk off into a bizarre sort of hallucinogenic sunset which he's created and have a new life. And Rob Bottin did the effects for that. Great beasties and creatures and terrifying stuff, but it's a great sequence. Spielberg sequence about people in an old folks' home meeting Scatman Crothers, who's like a Pied Piper for the old folk, who changes them, makes them realise about childhood and all that. It's just whimsy. It's just complete whimsy. And John Landis' massively troubled story about Vic Morrow's bigot facing is facing what he's been doing to other people, and the tables being turned on him. I've never, like, even with the horrible tragedy, which obviously mars that thing completely, that story's, I don't think it's very good at all. That and Spielberg's one are complete and utter rubbish, and they don't fit the bill with Twilight Zone, the TV show, whereas It's a Good Life and Nightmare at 20,000 Feet perfectly do encapsulate that nightmarish, fantastical. You might not, the people might not die, you know, but they're going to go through an odyssey, a vortex of the mysterious and the unusual, and they're going to come out the other end. They could be changed, they might just be deranged, but you know, it's about paranoia, it's about fantastical escapism and how the human mind combats things it cannot possibly explain, and how one person can go through something but the rest around them do not appreciate it or understand it. And Matheson's writing, he wrote a lot of the Twilight Zone, and this especially is just the epitome. It's the ultimate fear of flying story, and you know, and also it ties in with Second World War and what the pilots cited as being gremlins on the wing, gremlins interfering with their radios, their weaponry, their engines, and all the guts of a plane during World War II. And of course, Spielberg and Joe Dante would go on to do Gremlins, and they bring Jerry Goldsmith to score it. And Goldsmith's score does sound a lot like what you'd hear in Gremlins. It's almost, that's the Gremlins sort of theme. It's just evolved from the thing on the wing to those little reptilian big-eared critters causing havoc at Christmas time. Oh! Now, on a plane, this will calm you down. Especially if you're the pilot. So, Richard Donner's version is excellent with William Shatner. The music, it gets me so excited, but George Miller's version is the one I go to. And it's great to watch him as a double act, but this is the one that really, really takes that idea and runs with it. I love the fact that he's not recovering from a nervous breakdown. He just is a nervous flyer, but the worst kind of nervous flyer. And he genuinely sees a beast out there destroying some supernatural creature, destroying the plane. But no one believes him, and he's doing everything he can, despite his escalating paranoia, to try and save the plane. You know, I love it. Lithgow absolutely makes this. He sells it so well. And it's been much parodied, of course. Saturday Night Live has done at least two parodies of this, and they've both been great. They're highly celebrated. And of course, The Simpsons did one where you got Bart Simpson. It's not on a plane; it's on a school bus, and there's a gremlin outside the school bus tampering with it, and only Bart can see it. And it's fantastic. Even Richard Matheson said, like, the one I like most of all is The Simpsons adaptation. He loves it. Twilight Zone got remade again, didn't it? Oh God. I've forgotten the guy's name who did it now. But anyway, a couple of years ago, in fact, and they revisited this, but it was Nightmare at 30,000 feet. Jordan Peele redid it, and I'm not knocking it because I think what they did was a clever idea. The guy, it's about the movie of the times. It's a podcast, and he hears a podcast on board the plane that is about the plane he's on crashing, and he's trying to work out how is this happening. And in the end, you know, he causes paranoia in himself while on board the plane, and the plane does crash. There is no gremlin in the movie, except right at the very end, it's crashed on some atoll somewhere, and a doll, which is the doll of the original William Shatner version of the gremlin, washes up on the beach. As it happens, this poor guy's been killed by the passengers. They beat him to death because he's causing so much trouble. But it's again, it deals with paranoia and terror and, you know, airborne, you know, hysteria. But at least, because if you did the same thing again with the gremlin, albeit it'd be CGI now, you know that it wouldn't be as good. So Jordan Peele at least went, oh, okay, look, I'm going to take the bare bones of that story, Matheson's story of a guy on a plane who's absolutely paranoid and is getting worse by the second, and his actions are going to, you know, destroy the plane, kill everybody on board, although he thinks he's trying to save the day. But I'll remove the gremlin because I know I can't compete with that. I'll do something else. So it's kind of a clever twist. Overall, the new Twilight Zones weren't very good. From my own point of view, I didn't enjoy them as much, but the originals are classics. Although I always do prefer the ones that genuinely are scary ones or sci-fi ones where it's a bit of whimsy and just a bit of romance is in there. They're kind of bittersweet. Yeah, they're great, but they're nowhere near the caliber and the excitement level of the ones which genuinely try to inspire some excitement, thrills, and especially chills. Matheson's an awesome writer. This story will be retold again and again and again because it's so damn good. William Shatner is excellent, but John Lithgow, oh my God, it is so good. And that gremlin is such an unusual creation, and the way he's clearly taunting, he knows that, because every time anyone else goes there, he just scampers under the wing, and with the clouds and the rainfall, yeah, no one can really see. And at first, even John Lithgow's kind of like, oh, I can't make it out. He's going to put his glasses on and peer up close. It's a great moment as well. He's seeing this bloody thing, you know, right? That curtain's drawn on the window, but in the end, I've got to look again, and it's right there in his face. So he grabs this obnoxious little girl who's been in his face the whole time taking pictures. He grabs that camera and takes a Polaroid, and he's like, come on, waiting for it to, you know, the picture to emerge. And she's going, used to be a normal person. That's very rude, you know, this girl. And he's like that. And all the picture that comes out is just a reflection of his own face going, the big flash going off. And he's like, ah! Lithgow is alarmingly good. But it's that heightened operatic comedy. There's a danger to him. That's why he can play a bad guy so successfully. But it's also, it's a camp element too, which works. And it works. This is the music to that bit. It's just, the violins are going. It gives it this hyper kinetic ultra unreal sense of the absolute pure paranoia, hysteria, and just derangement. And it's one of those rides that, 25 minutes, I think that lasts, and the episode itself would be half an hour. Well spent. Absolute genius. Folks, Richard Donner nailed it way back in the early 60s. And George Miller just took it and rode with it and made it even more exuberant and wild and anarchic. See you, John. I wish they would bring out a mask or a figure of that gremlin on the wing. The Trick or Treat Studios have done a mask, 4 masks at least from the original Twilight Zone, including the vintage gremlin. But it does look, it does look goofy. It does. I like it, but it does. Nick Cravat just shambles down the wing, and when you see him fly off, whenever someone else comes to the window, and these wires just pull him off again like that, it does look a bit cheesy. But the closest I've got mask-wise, and I've got hundreds of masks, as you know, is this chap here, with the hair as well, because he's got hair, and this sort of skeletal, bony face. If that was pale, sort of glacial, that would look just like what you see in Twilight Zone, the movie.
There is a 5th dimension, beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone.
Or in my case, the Tartan Zone. You have been kilted. Please, folks, take it easy, be happy, be healthy, and seek out, if you don't like any of the rest of the Twilight Zone, and I was more of an Outer Limits kind of guy, to be honest with you. But without a doubt, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet is just excellent. It's an excellent story, so thrillingly and hyperkinetically told that you're sucked along with it. The escalating, rising sense of paranoia and fear and terror is just undeniable. Bill Shatner, John Lithgow, they're irresistible, and you're glued to the screen. It's just such, you're captive on board a plane. What the hell can you really do? And if no one else can see it, folks, I have been and always shall be kilted for your entertainment. Please take it easy, be happy, be healthy, and I'm going to see you all